The average American household spends just over $1,000 a year heating their home. If you heat with propane, that number is closer to $1,200. If you heat with fuel oil, it is almost the same. Over the 30 years of an average mortgage, that adds up to between $30,000 and $36,000 in checks written to a utility company for a service the planet hands out free to anyone with a match and a pile of sticks. There's a stove built in Oregon for less than $100 in scrap parts that you light once, with a match, feed for 1 hour, and then walk away from. The fire goes out, and the house stays warm for the next 24 hours. It is the most efficient wood-burning heater ever built in North America. And in most American states, if you tried to build one in your house tomorrow, your local building inspector would have legal grounds to make you tear it out. It is called a rocket mass heater. It is built from materials about as far from a high-end appliance as you can get. A 55-gallon steel barrel from a food processor, 200 used fire bricks bought from a classified ad, clay from the backyard, a length of stovepipe, a bag of refractory mortar, total cost in scrounged materials under $100. Total build time, a weekend. The man who designed the modern version, the Welsh-born ecologist Ianto Evans, wrote the book on it in 2006. The book is still in print, and the cover price has stayed under $20 the whole time. And here is the part that does not show up on any spec sheet. There is no fan, no blower, no thermostat, no electronic ignition, no moving parts at all. When the power goes out in January, your high-efficiency furnace becomes a useless metal box because the blower will not run without electricity. Your heat pump dies the same way. Your pellet stove dies as well. Pellet stoves need power for the auger and the fan that pushes hot air into the room. The rocket mass heater needs no electricity. Ice storm, hurricane, 3-day grid failure. It does not matter. Sticks and a match. That is the entire input list. It is the only heating system in your house that does not care whether the lights are on. $36,000 over 30 years or $100 once and a weekend. This idea is older than you think it is. In 1880, Mark Twain published a travel book called A Tramp Abroad about the year he spent in Europe. There's a section where he describes a German tile stove he saw in a hotel, the European ancestor of this design, a heavy ceramic masonry heater that has been built in Central Europe for over 500 years. He watched a servant feed it a small basket of pine sticks at 7:30 in the morning, light it, and walk away. He wrote that the stove kept the room delightfully warm and comfortable until past midnight. He wrote in his own words that one firing is enough for the day, the cost is next to nothing, and the heat produced is the same all day. Then he turned around and called the American wood stove a terror. He said using one was like supporting a volcano. That was 147 years ago. We did not listen. So how does this actually work? Because the math in the title sounds impossible until you see it. Walk into a home that has one, and the first thing you notice is that there is no stove. There is a bench, a long, low, sculpted clay bench running along one wall of the room with a small metal barrel at one end and a tube going up through the roof. You sit on it. It is warm, not hot. Warm the way a sunlit stone is warm in October. Press your palm flat against the cob and you can feel the heat coming up from inside the wall, slow and constant. The fire that put it there went out 6 hours ago. The fire itself burns sideways, not up. You stuff thumb-thick sticks into a small vertical opening in the front. Branches the kind of stuff most people would rake into a brush pile. You strike a match. Within 2 minutes, the whole thing roars. Not a fireplace whoosh, a roar. There's a vertical column of insulated air just past the burn chamber called a heat riser, and it hits 1,800 degrees almost immediately. The rising column pulls air through the feed tube hard enough to drag the flames horizontally toward it. At that temperature, the smoke itself catches fire. There's almost nothing left to send up the flue. Erica Weisner, one of the lead researchers in the country on these systems, put a thermometer on the exhaust, leaving the bench in her own house in eastern Washington. She measured it at around 90 degrees. A standard wood stove dumps exhaust at 400 to 600 degrees straight up the chimney. Every column of smoke you have ever seen rising from a roof in winter is heat leaving a house. Your wood stove sends most of its heat into the sky. This one keeps almost all of it inside the wall. The wall does the rest. The exhaust does not exit through the roof immediately. It runs through a steel pipe buried inside the cob bench, sometimes 30 feet long, snaking back and forth before it ever reaches the chimney. The clay absorbs every bit of heat the gases give up on the way through, then releases it slowly into the room over the next 12 to 24 hours, the way a stone wall releases the heat of the afternoon sun all evening long. When Evans himself switched from a regular wood stove to a rocket mass heater in his own house in southern Oregon, his wood use dropped from 4 to 5 cords per winter to about half a cord. Same house, same climate, same square footage. To put that in perspective, a cord of wood is a stack 4 feet wide, 4 feet high, and 8 feet long. He went from needing a wood pile the size of a pickup truck to needing one that fits in a wheelbarrow. A homesteader outside Missoula, Montana, built his own version in 2013 from a sketch he drew himself. It has a stainless steel barrel, a granite slab top, and a cob bench wrapped in a wood frame. Zone 5. Real winter, not Oregon mild. He has heated his house with it ever since. He lights one small fire a day. His woodshed used to be packed full at the start of every winter, with reserve dead-standing trees pulled from his property in case the shed ran out. Now it sits half empty all winter, and what he keeps in it lasts him 3 years instead of 1. So why is this not in every house in America? The answer is not what you would expect. There is no industry villain in this story. There is no buried report. What there is a piece of paperwork, and the paperwork is the entire problem. To legally install any wood-burning appliance in your home in most American states, the stove has to carry one of 2 stickers. One is a listing from Underwriters Laboratories under Standard 1482, and the other is certification from the Environmental Protection Agency under 40 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 60. Both certifications work the same way. A manufacturer builds an identical unit and sends it to an accredited lab. The lab tests the unit under controlled conditions with a standardized fuel load. If it passes, that exact factory model gets a sticker. Every unit that comes off the line after that is assumed identical. The sticker is what your building inspector looks for. A rocket mass heater can never get that sticker. Not because it fails the test. When these stoves are tested independently, they emit far less particulate matter than the Environmental Protection Agency allows for certified wood stoves. They fail because there is nothing to certify. Every rocket mass heater is built by hand, on site, by a different person, out of different materials, in a different shape, for a different room. There is no factory, no production line, and no second identical unit to send to the lab. So the inspector sees no sticker, and without a sticker, the installation is a code violation. This is what banned looks like in most American jurisdictions. Not banned by name, banned by paperwork. Your insurance will not cover it. Your inspector will not sign off on it. If you build one without a permit and your house burns down for an unrelated reason, for example, a kitchen fire or an electrical short, your insurance company can deny the claim because you have an unpermitted heating appliance in the building. And if you are thinking, wait, somebody must have figured out how to certify one of these by now. Somebody did. An Oregon company called Liberator put a rocket heater design through UL testing and EPA certification. It cost them $25,000 for the EPA test alone, $8,000 more for the UL 1482 standard, plus annual maintenance fees. They got the sticker. To make the design pass the standardized test, they had to modify it. They had to feed it commercial wood pellets through a hopper instead of sticks through a feed tube. They had to add components the original never needed. By the time it cleared certification, most of what made the original work was gone. The Liberator is real, it is legal, and it is a fraction of what Ianto Evans built in Oregon for $100. The best wood-burning heater ever invented cannot get a permit because it is too custom to certify. That is the entire reason. Nobody set out to ban it. The system was just built around products that come off an assembly line, and this one does not. A few honest things before we close this out. This is not a tutorial. Building one of these that actually works the way Ianto Evans's does requires real skill, real testing, and real attention to local clearances and combustible surfaces. Erica and Ernie Wisner, two of the most experienced builders in the country, say every rocket heater should be considered experimental until it has been through a full season of operation in your specific room with your specific firewood in your specific climate. And there is a real reason the certification framework exists. Less than 10% of American households heat with wood, but those households are responsible for over 40% of residential structure fires. That number is not a conspiracy. It is the actual track record of wood heating in unprofessional installations. The framework is overcautious in a way that blocks a genuinely better technology, but the caution exists for a reason. The bench in that Oregon cottage is still warm tonight. The book is still in print. The math is still real. And somewhere in your house, in your walls, under your floor, in the fixtures you walk past every day, there are other things just like it. Cheap, effective, sitting in plain sight, quietly left out of the code because they do not fit in a box. That is what this channel is about. The fixes that got set aside when someone figured out how to sell you something more expensive instead. If that is the kind of thing worth knowing, subscribe. There is more coming.